You are living someone else's life and calling it your own. The career you have, the goals you are chasing, the dreams you think you want, most of them were planted in your mind by people who never had the courage to live their own authentic lives. You have become a photocopy of a photocopy, getting blurrier and more distorted with each generation of inherited limitations. Your parents' fears became your boundaries. Your teachers' limited thinking became your reality. Your society's narrow definitions became your prison. You wake up every day wearing someone else's dreams like an ill-fitting suit, wondering why success feels like failure, why achievement feels like emptiness, why reaching your goals feels like losing your soul. Stop right there. Before you take another breath, before you make another plan, before you live another day, answer me this question honestly. When you look in the mirror, do you see a stranger looking back at you? Do you see someone you recognize? Or do you see someone who has been shaped, molded, and twisted by everyone else's expectations until you no longer know who you really are? Most people spend their entire lives living as imposters in their own skin. They wake up every morning, put on a mask that society gave them, and play a role that was written by someone else. They go to jobs they hate, live in relationships that drain them, and chase dreams that were never theirs to begin with. And at the end of their lives, they die with their music still locked inside their chest, never having sung the song they came here to sing. You see, there is a profound difference between existing and living. A rock exists, a tree exists, but only those who have found themselves truly live. The tragedy is not that most people die. The tragedy is that most people never really live at all. Let me tell you about a butterfly. This butterfly lived in a beautiful garden surrounded by flowers and sunshine. But here is the shocking part. It never knew it could fly. From the moment it emerged from its cocoon, it spent its days crawling along the ground, moving slowly from leaf to leaf, thinking that crawling was all it was capable of. Other butterflies soared overhead, dancing in the wind, but our butterfly never looked up. It had convinced itself that it was earthbound, limited, ordinary. One day, a strong wind came and lifted the butterfly off the ground. For a moment, it panicked, thinking it would fall and be hurt. But then something miraculous happened. Its wings began to move naturally, instinctively. It found itself floating, then gliding, then soaring higher than it had ever been. In that moment, the butterfly realized the devastating truth. It had wings all along. It had always been capable of flight. It had simply forgotten who it was designed to be. You are that butterfly. You have been crawling through life when you were designed to soar. You have been accepting limitations that were never yours to accept. You have been living small when you were created for something magnificent. The question is not whether you have what it takes. The question is whether you will remember who you really are. But here is what nobody tells you. Finding yourself is not a comfortable process. It requires you to strip away everything that is not authentically you. It requires you to disappoint people who have grown comfortable with your small version. It requires you to challenge beliefs about yourself that you have carried for decades. It requires courage that most people do not possess. The problem is that we live in a world that profits from your confusion about your identity. The education system teaches you to fit in, not stand out. The corporate world teaches you to be replaceable, not irreplaceable. Society teaches you to follow the crowd, not lead the pack. Your family teaches you to be safe, not to be significant. From the moment you were born, people began telling you who you should be. Your parents projected their unfulfilled dreams onto you. Your teachers labeled you and put you in categories. Your friends influenced you to conform to their standards. Your employers trained you to suppress your creativity and follow their systems. Layer by layer, year by year, other people's voices became louder than your own inner voice until you could no longer hear what your heart was trying to tell you. But underneath all those layers of conditioning, underneath all those false identities that were placed on you, underneath all those limiting beliefs that were planted in your mind, there is a real you waiting to emerge. There is a person of purpose, passion, and power who has been buried alive under other people's expectations. The crisis you are facing right now is not a crisis of circumstances. It is not a crisis of resources. It is not even a crisis of opportunities. What you are facing is a crisis of identity. You do not know who you really are, so you do not know what you are really capable of. You do not know your true value, so you settle for far less than you deserve. You do not know your authentic purpose, so you chase goals that leave you empty, even when you achieve them. This is why 90% of people die with their music still inside them. This is why most people look back on their lives with regret instead of satisfaction. This is why so many people feel like they are living someone else's life instead of their own. They never took the time to find themselves. They never had the courage to be themselves. They never gave themselves permission to live their own truth. But today that changes for you. Today you begin the most important journey of your life, the journey back to yourself. Today you begin to separate who you really are from who others told you to be. Today you begin to listen to your own voice again instead of the chorus of other people's opinions. Today you begin to live instead of merely exist. The most dangerous prison in the world is not made of steel bars and concrete walls. It is made of other people's expectations. It is invisible, yet it holds millions of people captive every single day. They wake up in this prison, work in this prison, and go to sleep in this prison, never realizing that the door has been unlocked all along. Let me tell you about a woman who discovered this truth at the age of 45. She had spent 23 years climbing the corporate ladder as a lawyer. She had the corner office, the expensive suits, the prestigious title, and the six-figure salary that made her parents proud. Every holiday gathering, they would boast about their daughter, the lawyer. Every family photo showed her in her professional attire, looking successful by every measure society uses to define success. But every morning when she woke up, she felt like she was suffocating. Every case she worked on drained her soul a little more. Every client meeting left her feeling empty and disconnected. She would sit in her beautiful office, looking out at the city skyline, and wonder why achieving everything she was supposed to want felt like dying a slow death. The turning point came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She was walking past an elementary school when she heard children laughing and learning. Something stirred deep inside her chest, a longing she had buried for decades. She remembered how, as a little girl, she used to line up her dolls and teach them lessons. She remembered the joy she felt when explaining things to her younger cousins. She remembered her childhood dream of becoming a teacher, a dream her parents had convinced her was not practical enough, not profitable enough, not prestigious enough. Standing outside that school, she realized she had been living someone else's definition of success while her own soul was starving. She had been wearing someone else's dreams like an ill-fitting suit, uncomfortable and unnatural. She had traded her authentic calling for other people's approval, and the cost was her happiness, her passion, and her sense of purpose. That woman walked into her office the next day and resigned from her high-paying job. She went back to school to get her teaching credential. Her parents were devastated. Her colleagues thought she had lost her mind. Her friends questioned her sanity. But for the first time in 23 years, she felt alive. Today, she teaches third grade, makes a fraction of what she used to make, and has never been happier. Her students adore her because she brings authentic passion to her work. Her lessons are creative and engaging because teaching is not just her job, it is her calling. She goes to bed exhausted but fulfilled, knowing that she spent her day doing what she was born to do. This is what happens when you have the courage to disappoint others in order to be true to yourself. This is what happens when you stop living for other people's applause and start living for your own inner approval. But understand this, the prison of other people's expectations is not built overnight. It is constructed slowly, brick by brick, year by year, through well-meaning advice and loving manipulation. Your parents want you to be safe, so they steer you away from risks. Your teachers want you to fit in, so they discourage your uniqueness. Your friends want you to stay the same, so they resist your growth. Your spouse wants security, so they fear your dreams. The tragedy is that the people who love you the most sometimes become the biggest obstacles to you becoming who you really are. They do not mean to harm you. They genuinely believe they are protecting you, but their fears become your limitations. Their insecurities become your boundaries. Their unfulfilled dreams become your obligations. This is how generational curses are passed down, not through some mystical force, but through the simple mechanism of parents transferring their unrealized potential to their children. A father who never had the courage to start his own business convinces his son that entrepreneurship is too risky. A mother who gave up her artistic dreams for stability teaches her daughter that creativity does not pay the bills. Generation after generation, dreams die before they are even born because we inherit other people's fears along with their love. The educational system makes this problem even worse. Schools are designed to produce conformity, not creativity. They reward students who color inside the lines, literally and figuratively. They teach children to raise their hands and wait for permission before speaking their truth. They measure intelligence by how well students can repeat information, not by how well they can think for themselves. By the time most people graduate, they have been programmed to seek external validation for every major life decision. They choose colleges based on rankings instead of fit. They choose careers based on salary instead of satisfaction. They choose relationships based on what looks good to others instead of what feels right to them. They have become addicted to other people's approval, and like any addiction, it slowly destroys their ability to think and choose for themselves. The corporate world completes this process of domestication. Companies want employees who will follow orders without question, work long hours without complaint, and sacrifice their personal lives for corporate profits. They create elaborate systems to make people feel important while keeping them powerless. They offer just enough benefits to keep people dependent and just enough hope for advancement to keep people committed. Before you know it, you are trapped in a lifestyle that requires you to maintain a job you do not love to pay for, things you do not need to impress people whose opinions should not matter to you. You are running on a treadmill that goes nowhere, getting tired but never getting closer to your true destination. The saddest part is that most people do not even realize they are in prison. They have been there so long that they mistake the walls for the horizon. They have become so comfortable with their limitations that they defend them as if they were privileges. They have forgotten that there is a whole world beyond the bars of other people's expectations. But here is the truth that can set you free. You were not born to live someone else's life. You were not created to fulfill someone else's dreams. You were not put on this earth to make other people comfortable with their own mediocrity. You have a unique purpose that no one else can fulfill.
You have gifts that no one else possesses. You have a contribution to make that no one else can make. The moment you understand this, really understand this, is the moment your life begins to change. It is the moment you stop asking permission to be yourself and start giving yourself permission to become who you were always meant to be.
Now that you understand you have been living in a prison of other people's expectations, the question becomes this: how do you find your way back to your authentic self? How do you excavate the real you from underneath all those layers of conditioning and false programming? How do you separate what is truly yours from what was imposed upon you? The answer is that you must become an archaeologist of your own soul. You must dig deep, layer by layer, until you uncover the treasures that have been buried within you since the day you were born. But unlike archaeological digs that look for ancient artifacts, you are looking for something that is very much alive: your true purpose, your authentic gifts, your genuine passion. Let me tell you about a man who worked as a janitor at a large manufacturing plant for 15 years. Every day, he mopped floors, emptied trash cans, and cleaned bathrooms. His co-workers saw him as just another maintenance worker. His supervisors barely acknowledged his presence. Even he had begun to believe that cleaning was all he was good for. But this man had a secret. In his spare time, he loved to fix things. When his neighbor's appliances broke, they called him instead of a repair service. When his friends had car trouble, they brought their vehicles to his garage. When his wife's sewing machine stopped working, he could get it running again in minutes. He had an intuitive understanding of how mechanical things worked, but he had never considered this ability to be anything special. One day, a piece of expensive equipment broke down on the factory floor. The company called in 3 different repair specialists, and none of them could fix it. Production was stopped, workers were sent home, and the company was losing thousands of dollars every hour. As he was cleaning around the broken machine, he noticed something the specialist had missed: a tiny wire that had come loose in a place where no one thought to look. He hesitated for a moment. What if he was wrong? What if he made things worse? What if people laughed at the janitor who thought he could fix what the experts could not? But something inside him, a voice he had been ignoring for years, told him to try. He fixed that machine in 10 minutes. Not only did he fix it, but he showed the engineers how to prevent the same problem from happening again. Word spread quickly through the company. Within 6 months, he was promoted to the maintenance department. Within 2 years, he was supervising a team of technicians. Within 5 years, he had started his own industrial repair company. Today, his company employs over 50 people and services manufacturers across 3 states. He makes more in a month than he used to make in a year. But more importantly, he wakes up every morning excited about his work because he is finally using the gifts he was born with instead of hiding them under a janitor's uniform. This man's story illustrates a fundamental truth. Your talents are not accidents. They are appointments with destiny. The things you are naturally good at, the problems you intuitively solve, the activities that energize you instead of drain you. These are clues pointing you toward your authentic purpose. Most people dismiss their natural abilities because they come so easily. They think that if something is not difficult for them, it must not be valuable. They believe that struggle equals significance, that suffering equals success. This is backwards thinking that keeps you from recognizing your greatest strengths. The truth is that your natural talents are gifts, not given to you for your benefit alone, but for the benefit of the world. They are tools in your hands, designed to solve specific problems, meet specific needs, serve specific people. When you ignore your talents, you are not being humble, you are being selfish. You are withholding from the world something that only you can give. But talents alone are not enough. True purpose exists at the intersection of what you are good at, what you love doing, and what the world needs. Think of it as 3 circles that must overlap. Where all 3 circles meet, you will find your sweet spot, the place where your life begins to make sense, where your work feels like play, where your contribution creates impact. The first circle is your natural ability, what you can do better than most people with less effort than most people require. These are not skills you learned in school or training you received at work. These are capacities you have carried since childhood, patterns that show up again and again in different areas of your life. The second circle is your authentic passion, what you love so much that you would do it even if no one paid you. This is not the same as what you think you should love or what other people love. This is what genuinely energizes you, what you think about when your mind wanders, what you would choose to do with unlimited time and resources. The third circle is the world's need, problems that genuinely concern you, people you feel called to serve, causes that stir something deep within your spirit. This is your burden, the thing that breaks your heart and motivates you to action. Most people spend their lives operating in only 1 or 2 of these circles. They have jobs that use their abilities but drain their passion, or they pursue their passions but cannot make a living, or they serve causes they care about but feel incompetent and ineffective. True fulfillment comes when all 3 circles align, but here is what you must understand. Finding this alignment requires you to pay attention to patterns in your life that you may have ignored or dismissed. When do you feel most alive? What types of problems do you solve naturally? What activities make you lose track of time? What injustices make you angry? What possibilities make you excited? Your struggles often reveal your strength.
The challenges you have overcome in your own life often point to the people you are meant to help. The pain you have worked through often becomes the platform from which you serve others. The mountains you have climbed often become the paths you help others navigate. Your childhood dreams, before they were edited by adult practicality, often contain seeds of your authentic purpose. What did you want to be when you grew up? What games did you love to play? What subjects captured your imagination? What activities made you feel most like yourself? Your current frustrations often indicate areas where you have untapped potential. What bothers you about how things are done in your industry? What problems do you see that others seem to ignore? What improvements do you wish someone would make? Sometimes your irritation is actually inspiration trying to get your attention. The process of excavating your authentic self is not comfortable. It requires you to question beliefs you have held for years. It requires you to challenge decisions you have already made. It requires you to consider possibilities that may seem impossible from where you currently stand. But this discomfort is not a sign that you are going the wrong direction. It is a sign that you are growing. It is a sign that you are breaking free from the limitations that have held you captive. It is a sign that you are finally becoming who you were always meant to be. The archaeological dig within is not a one-time event. It is an ongoing process of discovery, of peeling back layers, of connecting dots that have been scattered across the landscape of your life. Each layer you remove reveals more of your authentic self. Each connection you make brings more clarity about your true purpose. But you must be patient with yourself. You must be willing to sit with uncertainty while the picture becomes clear. You must be willing to experiment, to try new things, to fail forward as you learn what fits and what does not. Most importantly, you must be willing to trust the process, even when you cannot see the destination.
Now comes the most difficult part of finding yourself. The moment when you must choose between their dreams and your dreams. This is where most people turn back. This is where most people decide that living authentically costs too much. This is where most people choose the comfortable prison over the uncertain freedom. Because here is what nobody tells you about living your truth. It will disappoint people. It will upset people who have grown comfortable with your small version. It will threaten people who have built their identity around controlling yours. It will challenge people who need you to stay the same so they do not have to confront their own need to change. The hardest truth you will ever face is this: the people who love you the most sometimes hold you back the most, not because they want to hurt you, but because they want to protect you. Not because they do not believe in you, but because they are afraid of losing you. Not because they do not want you to succeed, but because they cannot handle the thought of you failing. Let me tell you about a young woman who discovered this painful reality when she made the most important decision of her life. She came from a family of doctors. Her father was a surgeon. Her mother was a pediatrician. Her older brother had just finished his residency. From the time she could walk, everyone assumed she would follow the family tradition. Her bedroom walls were covered with medical school brochures. Her birthday gifts were always related to medicine. Her identity was so tied to becoming a doctor that she had never seriously considered any other possibility. She excelled in her pre-med courses, scored high on the MCAT, and was accepted to a prestigious medical school. Her parents threw a celebration party. Her relatives sent congratulations. Her friends were impressed. Everything was going according to plan, everyone else's plan. But 3 months into her first year of medical school, she was miserable. The subjects that excited her classmates bored her to tears. The hospital rotations that energized others drained her completely. She would sit in anatomy class, staring at textbooks, wondering why she felt like she was slowly dying inside while pursuing a career that was supposed to save lives. The breaking point came during a particularly stressful week of exams. She walked past the culinary arts school next to the hospital and smelled something that stopped her in her tracks: fresh bread baking. The aroma triggered a flood of memories from childhood when she would spend hours in her grandmother's kitchen, learning to cook traditional recipes, experimenting with flavors, creating meals that brought the family together around the dinner table. In that moment, she remembered who she really was underneath all the expectations. She remembered the joy she felt when she cooked for others. She remembered the satisfaction of creating something beautiful and nourishing with her own hands. She remembered the dream she had buried years ago: to become a chef, to open her own restaurant, to feed people, not just food, but love, culture, and community. That night, she called her parents and told them she was leaving medical school. The conversation lasted 3 hours. Her father hung up on her twice. Her mother cried. They used words like disappointment, waste, foolishness, and failure. They told her she was throwing away her future. They told her she was breaking their hearts. They told her she was making the biggest mistake of her life. Her decision sent shockwaves through her extended family. Uncles and aunts called to talk sense into her. Cousins questioned her sanity. Family friends whispered about what went wrong. Some relatives stopped speaking to her altogether. The weight of their disapproval was almost unbearable, but she held firm. She enrolled in culinary school, worked nights as a server to pay her bills, and spent every free moment learning her craft. The first year was brutal, not just financially, but emotionally. Every family gathering was tense. Every phone call with her parents was filled with passive-aggressive comments about her choice. She wondered many times if she had made a terrible mistake.
but slowly something magical began to happen. As she learned to trust her instincts in the kitchen, she began to trust her instincts in life. As she developed her skills with food, she developed confidence in her decisions. As she created dishes that delighted others, she created a sense of purpose that fulfilled her own soul. 5 years later, she opened a small restaurant that specialized in fusion cuisine, blending traditional recipes from her grandmother with modern techniques she had learned in school. The restaurant was an immediate success. Food critics praised her creativity. Customers lined up for hours to taste her creations. Within 2 years, she had expanded to a second location. More importantly, she had found peace with herself and eventually with her family. When her parents saw how truly happy she was, when they witnessed the passion she brought to her work, when they tasted the love she poured into every dish, they began to understand. It took time, but they learned to be proud of the chef instead of disappointed in the doctor who never was. Today, she owns 3 restaurants, has published 2 cookbooks, and teaches cooking classes to young people in her community. But her greatest achievement is not her success, it is the courage she found to disappoint others in order to be true to herself. This story illustrates the most important principle of authentic living. You cannot live your truth without disappointing people who have invested in your lies. You cannot become who you really are without upsetting people who need you to stay who you have always been. Here is why this happens. When you change, you hold up a mirror to everyone around you. Your courage to live authentically exposes their cowardice to live safely. Your willingness to take risks highlights their attachment to security. Your decision to follow your dreams reminds them of the dreams they abandoned. Your transformation becomes a judgment on their stagnation. This is why people will try to talk you out of your breakthrough. This is why they will remind you of your failures when you are on the verge of your success. This is why they will predict disaster when you are about to experience triumph. They are not protecting you from failure. They are protecting themselves from the discomfort of watching you succeed where they gave up. But understand this, their discomfort with your growth is not your responsibility. Their fear of your success is not your problem. Their need for you to stay small is not your obligation. You were not put on this earth to make other people comfortable with their own mediocrity. The guilt you feel when you choose yourself is not a sign that you are being selfish. It is a sign that you have been programmed to prioritize everyone else's happiness above your own. It is a sign that you have been taught to seek permission for decisions that only you have the right to make. Your happiness is not selfish, it is necessary. When you are living your authentic life, you become a better partner, a better parent, a better friend, and a better human being. When you are fulfilled in your purpose, you have more to give to others. When you are operating in your gifts, you make contributions that benefit everyone around you. The world does not need another person who is living safely within the boundaries of other people's expectations. The world needs you, the real you, the authentic you, the you that exists when you stop trying to please everyone else and start trying to become who you were created to be. But this transformation requires courage, the courage to stand alone when necessary, the courage to be misunderstood, the courage to face criticism from people whose opinions used to control your decisions. It requires the courage to trust your own inner voice, even when it contradicts the chorus of external voices that have guided your life up to this point. Most people would rather be liked than be themselves. Most people would rather be accepted than be authentic. Most people would rather keep the peace than find their purpose, but you are not most people. You have something inside you that refuses to settle for less than your best life. The moment you decide to honor that something, to feed it instead of starve it, to follow it instead of fear it, is the moment your real life begins. It is the moment you stop existing for others and start living for yourself. It is the moment you trade the approval of the crowd for the approval of your own conscience.
What happens when you finally make the decision to live authentically? What changes when you align your life with your true purpose? What shifts when you stop pretending to be someone else and start being yourself? The transformation is nothing short of miraculous. First, you will notice that everything becomes easier, not because life stops presenting challenges, but because you are finally swimming with the current instead of against it. When you are operating in your authentic gifts, tasks that would exhaust others energize you. When you are pursuing your genuine passion, work that would drain others fulfills you. When you are serving your true calling, obstacles that would stop others inspire you to find creative solutions. This is not magic. This is alignment. This is what happens when the engine of your life finally has the right fuel. This is what happens when you stop forcing square pegs into round holes and start putting your gifts where they naturally fit. Second, you will discover that authentic living is contagious. When you have the courage to be yourself, you give others permission to do the same. When you break free from the prison of expectations, you show others that escape is possible. When you choose your dreams over your fears, you inspire others to examine their own choices. Your transformation becomes a beacon of hope for people who have forgotten that they have options. Your courage becomes a catalyst for others to find their own courage. Your authenticity creates a ripple effect that touches lives you may never know about. Third, You will find that the universe seems to conspire to help you succeed when you are living in alignment with your purpose. Opportunities that never existed before suddenly appear. People who can help you seem to show up at exactly the right moment. Resources you need become available in ways you never expected. This happens because when you are operating in your authentic gifts, you create value that the world recognizes and rewards. When you are solving problems you were designed to solve, people are willing to pay for your solutions. When you are serving needs you were created to meet, the market responds to your offerings. But more than the external changes, the internal transformation is profound. For the first time in your life, you feel completely integrated. There is no gap between who you are in private and who you are in public. There is no tension between what you do for work and what you do for fulfillment. There is no conflict between your values and your actions. This integration brings a peace that cannot be purchased, a confidence that cannot be shaken, and a joy that cannot be stolen. You wake up excited about your day because you get to spend it being yourself. You go to sleep satisfied because you invested your time in something that matters to you. You look in the mirror and recognize the person looking back at you. You stop seeking validation from others because you have found validation within yourself. You stop comparing your life to others because you understand that your path is uniquely yours. You stop apologizing for who you are because you have learned to celebrate what makes you different. The relationships in your life also transform. Some people will distance themselves because they cannot handle your growth, but others will be drawn to your authenticity like flowers to the sun. You will attract people who appreciate the real you instead of people who only like your mask. More importantly, you will become a better partner, parent, and friend because you are no longer resentful about the sacrifices you are making. When you choose your life instead of having it chosen for you, you bring joy to your relationships instead of bitterness. When you are fulfilled in your purpose, you have overflow to share with others instead of emptiness to hide. Your children, if you have them, will grow up watching someone live courageously instead of safely. They will learn by example that it is possible to honor both your responsibilities and your dreams. They will inherit courage instead of fear, possibility instead of limitation, authenticity instead of pretense. But perhaps most importantly, you will finally understand why you are here. Your life will have meaning beyond your own pleasure or comfort. You will know that your existence serves a purpose larger than yourself. You will feel connected to something significant, something that gives weight and substance to your days. This sense of purpose becomes your anchor in storms, your compass when you are lost, your fuel when you are tired. It transforms ordinary moments into meaningful ones. It turns routine tasks into acts of service. It changes work into worship. But here is what you must understand. Living your true life is not a destination you arrive at once and then coast. It is a daily choice, a moment-by-moment decision to honor your authentic self instead of your manufactured self. Some days will be easier than others. Some decisions will be clearer than others. Some people will be more supportive than others. The key is to keep choosing yourself. Keep trusting your inner voice. Keep believing that you deserve to live a life that reflects who you really are. The key is to remember that you were not created to be a copy of someone else. You were created to be an original. Your authenticity is not optional. It is essential. The world needs what you have to offer, but only you can offer it. The problems you are designed to solve will remain unsolved if you do not solve them. The people you are meant to serve will remain unserved if you do not serve them. The people you are meant to serve will remain unserved if you do not serve them. The contributions you are supposed to make will remain unmade if you do not make them. This is your moment. This is your time. This is your opportunity to stop existing and start living. This is your chance to trade the life you have been given for the life you were meant to live. This is your invitation to become who you have always been underneath everything you were told to be. The butterfly does not need permission to fly. The flower does not need approval to bloom. The river does not need validation to flow toward the ocean. And you do not need anyone's consent to become yourself. Your authentic life is waiting for you. It has been waiting patiently while you lived other people's versions of your story. It has been calling to you through every moment of dissatisfaction, every feeling of emptiness, every sense that something was missing. Stop waiting for the perfect time. There is no perfect time. Stop waiting for the right circumstances. You create the circumstances through your choices. Stop waiting for other people's permission. You are the only one who can give yourself permission to live. Your life begins now, not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions improve or people change their minds. Your life begins the moment you decide to honor the person you were created to be instead of the person you were told to become. Make that decision now. Choose yourself now. Trust yourself now. Free yourself now. Your authentic life is not coming someday. It is here today, waiting for you to claim it. The question is not whether you deserve it or whether you are ready for it. The question is whether you will have the courage to reach out and take hold of what has always been yours. This is your time to fly.